A sudden brake made the old silver hatchback let out a painful squeak through its whole body. A cardboard box on the front seat rolled dangerously toward the windshield. Alina barely managed to catch the cake with her left hand while pressing the horn with her palm to scare off the rude driver of a black SUV who had suddenly cut onto the roundabout. Beside her sat Pavel, a regular client at the beauty salon, a quiet, slightly awkward programmer who came in once a month for a haircut and always left generous tips. That day, Alina agreed to drive him to his relative's place after her shift because she was heading in that direction anyway. The trip was supposed to take 20 minutes, but as always, the city had its own plans. Pavel was on his way to a family dinner and had already warned her that gatherings with his relatives were always a test. Aunt Helena loved interrogating him about work, marriage, and life plans, while his brother Iyer and Iyer's wife, Victoria, constantly stirred up trouble. Alina, who had already had her meeting with a friend cancelled and did not want to return to an empty apartment, agreed to keep him company. When they arrived, Aunt Helena greeted them with such enthusiasm that it was as if Pavel had brought home not just a friend, but a bride. She immediately ushered them into the house, seated them at the festive table, and proudly introduced Alina to the whole family. Alina felt awkward among people dressed as if they had come to a wedding, but she quickly realized that the real purpose of the evening was not dinner, it was a family interrogation of Pavel. Victoria was the most aggressive of all. Snobbish, poisonous, and self-assured. She openly compared Pavel to his ex-girlfriend, Oksana, who, according to her, had supposedly built a brilliant career and achieved far more than just a hairdresser. She deliberately humiliated Alina, hinting that Pavel needed someone more high-status and useful than a salon professional. But Alina did not stay silent. Calmly and firmly, she made it clear to Victoria that working with people every day teaches you to quickly recognize who is sincere and who is trying to boost their ego at someone else's expense. She pointed out that Pavel was in a new relationship now and that the past should remain in the past. After that, silence fell over the table, and the family's attitude toward her changed noticeably. Later, when Pavel learned that Alina had given away all her savings to save his father, who had been rushed to intensive care with a heart attack, he finally understood who truly stood beside him. His relatives, in contrast, had refused to help. Alina then took on serious debt to pay for the surgery. Pavel's family was stunned by her sacrifice, and old Mykola Ivanovich, Pavel's father, began treating her like a daughter. Meanwhile, Pavel received the job offer of his dreams in Kiev. High salary, prestigious position, great prospects. But along with that came a strict 3-year contract requiring him to move immediately. For Alina, this became a painful blow. She began to fear becoming a burden to him. She had a stable job in Chernivtsi, regular clients, and a sense of being needed. In Kiev, she would feel like nobody, just the girlfriend of a successful IT specialist, living off him. Her fears were fueled by Oksana, who again entered Pavel's life to sow doubt. She insisted to Alina that Pavel still loved her and that his relationship with Alina was nothing more than a temporary convenience. She tried to convince Alina that in the capital Pavel would quickly find someone better and leave her behind. Those words nearly broke Alina, and she seriously considered ending the relationship for the sake of his future. But a conversation with Mykola Ivanovich changed everything. The old man reminded her that in his youth people had considered him an unsuitable match for his wife from an educated family, yet it was respect, support, and love that made their marriage strong. He convinced Alina that Pavel would choose not convenience, but the person he trusted. And indeed, Pavel firmly stated that he would not go to Kiev without her. He refused the relocation, but offered another path. Remote work, a local company, freelance projects, and paying off the debt together, as true partners. Alina finally believed she did not have to be anyone's convenient companion or a housekeeper for a successful man. She was an equal. Their relationship was built not on status, not on money, and not on other people's expectations, but on mutual respect. Later, Aunt Helena and Iyer suddenly burst into the apartment with a cake and a bottle of cognac, no longer as family, but as people who had smelled profit. They cheerfully announced the good news. Pavel had gotten his dream job, so it was time to ask him for money again, 15,000 for the down payment on a cottage. Worse still, they casually suggested selling their father's house while he was still alive so the money could be divided. But this time Pavel finally snapped. He threw them out of the apartment and, for the first time, openly said that they had not helped him in the darkest moment, when his father was in intensive care, yet now had come to divide his future. He declared that his real family was his father and Alina, who had saved them all when no one else lifted a finger. The relatives left humiliated and furious, while Pavel, drained by the confrontation, received Alina's silent support, which helped him recover. The next day, he sent the company in Kiev a letter declining relocation and proposing to work remotely instead. To his surprise, the employer agreed. Pavel stayed in Chernivtsi, kept the good salary, and could build a life without betraying himself. Over time, life improved. They repaid the loan together. Pavel's father went through rehabilitation, and Alina continued working at the salon without the constant fear of the future. Their relationship only grew stronger. And one evening, when they gathered in the yard of the old family house with a few close people, Pavel took out a small velvet box and proposed to Alina. There was no pomp, no fake glamour, no crowd of hypocritical relatives. Only them, his father, close friends, and a simple, real feeling that had survived family pressure, manipulation, debt, and doubt. Alina said yes, because now she knew for sure. This is what real love looks like: quiet, honest, equal, and strong.